morning or afternoon, depending on your location in the country, and welcome to the behind the scenes webinar here at Buckingham. We're going to be talking about the first 90 days of working with Buckingham Strategic Partners. My name is Ben Slater. I'm the divisional manager for the West Coast here at Buckingham, and joining me together today is my tag team partner, Sean Brooks, who covers the Midwest part of the country for Buckingham and working with advisors on both the consulting and new business development side of the equation. We're excited to have you all here today and look forward to the discussion that we're going to have with some firms that recently partnered with us to talk about the experiences and what it's like joining a TAMP and working with the TAMP and what to expect in those first 90 days. But before we get started, we want to make sure we cover a couple of housekeeping things. This is meant to be an interactive session. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll do our best to make sure we get them answered. But before we kick things off, we want to make sure we give you a little bit of background on who Buckingham is and how we partner with firms. So when we look at our next slide, Buckingham itself, we've been in business for over 25 years. We manage roughly, 38 plus $1 billion. There's over 550 team members. And, most of the firms that have been with us for over 15 years. So we've got a long track record of working with firms that are centered around planning and working with clients from start to finish and help them really achieve the goals and dreams that they want to as a firm. One of the main questions we do get, though, is what should I expect when working with a firm like Buckingham? And if we look at kind of we'll move through the slides here, and like I said, it should be pretty quick. Your expectation when working with a firm like ours, and the way we view it, is how are we delivering value for you and your clients? And that can be an overlapping conversation as your firm moves through a variety of life cycles in your business. So for us, we view it in the lens of your business. How do we help you drive the value of your organization, whether you're starting up or you're looking at exit or you're in the middle? But it's a simple equation. And that's that the value of your firm is the growth divided by risks. And there's a lot of intersections in between there. And most of the firms that partner with us really kind of meet this inflection point as an organization, or where they may either say, hey, I am having trouble scaling up or out, or I am worried about hiring, or I'm worried about staff, or I need more support on the back end. And that's really where our firm specializes in working with firms. But it's also done to drive you in the value you give to clients. And we know that there is sort of this margin compression across the industry. And I don't want to say margin, but where clients are asking for you as advisors to do more. And so our value is to help you get wider in the offering you provide your clients and think through the strategies that help deliver on that. And like I said, my tag team partner, Sean Brooks, is gonna help us with this conversation along with a few different advisors. And we're gonna walk through some of the solutions that Buckingham might provide up front, but then we're also gonna ask the advisors that recently partnered with us in the last 6 to 8 months to share their feedback on what the experience has been like in working with us. So Sean, as you jump in here and we're thinking about Buckingham, and what should advisors who are sitting on the other end of this call be thinking about when they're looking at Buckingham?
Well, I think this slide encapsulates a number of those risk drivers, which is honestly one of those reasons as a business owner running a financial advisory practice, there are things that pop up over time as you add more client relationships, as you look at hiring new team members, that can create some complexities in the business. And that's an area where we as Buckingham like to come in and try to provide those solutions. And we'll talk about that a lot here today, not only what the transition looked like, but the ways that Buckingham can assist. So on the next slide, what we'll do is we'll dig into, everyone's seen the iceberg analogy, Ben. I know you and I have seen this a million times, but it does ring true here. And truthfully, we get lumped into the term TAMP, Turnkey Asset Management Provider, which you'll see here on this slide. And we take care of the typical offerings that a TAMP would provide, although we don't love that term, but there's so much more to that Buckingham relationship. And you'll see here, and we'll certainly dig into it further, things like advanced planning support, really leaning on the peers in the community, leveraging different technologies, building efficiencies within the firm, helping to increase that planning acumen and deliverables to clients. So wanted to provide that high-level overview of what Buckingham does from a solution set. And now on the next slide, we're actually going to go into a wonderful Denny's menu, a much longer list then of the solutions that we provide in the different areas. So investments for sure, right? We're helping advisors create some scale and standardization around their investment implementation through a number of different solutions. In addition to model management or custom things, we're working on, asset location, tax loss harvesting, really helping to remove the advisor away from some of those processes, which certainly are important. But again, where's the best use of their time? And we feel like if we can deliver on creating some scale around the investment process, the advisor can spend more time with their clients. Other areas is, go
Sean,
ahead, Ben.
one thing, one thing I'd just add into this is that when you're looking at the variety of the Denny's menus of solutions, the way our angle or our lens of this is very consultative, and we operate from a level of flexibility that allows a variety of firms to plug in multiple areas. So if there's something you see on here, they go, okay, what investments, what does that mean? We want to make sure we answer some of that today. So we'll hear from some of our panelists as well on their thoughts on that as well. So yeah, sorry, Sean.
Consulting on things like the client experience. How are you delivering that? What does that look like? What are your ideal clients? How are you going to bring in more of those ideal clients? Thinking about, again, financial planning. What are the ways that we can help our advisors up their game in terms of the deliverables and capabilities they have from a planning perspective? Consulting on technology. Everyone loves their favorite widget or technology toy, but how does that integrate into your systems and our systems to make you more efficient? And the list goes on, things like practice management, other specialty services we have, retirement offering, different things like that for business valuations. Also helping to get in the realm of growth and marketing strategies, providing, of course, back office and operational support, and really helping, again, that advisor and their team focus on what's most important. And for us, that, of course, is the clients. So again, as you look at this list, we know there are a ton of words on this slide. I hope you'll learn a little bit more about us today and the conversation that we'll have. And of course, please do put any questions in through the chat, and we're all here to help after the call, and you'll have our contact information if there are any areas up here where you're thinking it would be great to have kind of that consultant partner helping you think through these different areas. So that's a great overview of Buckingham. And with that, what we'll do is we'll bring in our panel today. We've got 3 advisors from across the country who are going to join us in this discussion and share a little bit about their experiences and share their insights so that you, the attendees here who've taken time to join this call, can learn more about what a transition to Buckingham looks like, what are those value adds, what are those resources that they really found to be helpful. So with that, I'll introduce the panel and bring everybody up on screen here. And Ariel, if I could start with you, we're just going left to right on the map. Would love to have you provide a little bit of a hello to the group here for everyone who's joined, some information about you, and some background on your firm, if you don't mind. That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for volunteering me to go first. My name is Ariel Vitoni, and I am, as the map showed, I'm located in Los Angeles, California. I joined Buckingham in February of this year, and it was the same month that I launched my RIA. And I had transitioned my existing advisory practice that I had been building since 2017, but I was not an RIA until I partnered up with Buckingham. I am solo, so I'm the only advisor. I don't have any employees currently.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Do appreciate that. We're going to come back to you here. I'll give you a little bit of a break, Ariel. So I'll introduce the next member of our panel who'll be joining us today. Tim Cleaver, would you mind with the same type of introduction, a little bit about yourself and your firm, if you don't mind?
Yeah, my name's Tim. Thanks for having me or volunteering me, whatever, I'm located in Central Kansas. I'm a CFP, and I operate inside of an accounting firm. So we have an accounting firm that offers a wide array of services. And 8 years ago, they brought me in to start building the wealth management. And we didn't start off as our own RIA, but we moved that way quickly. And we just transitioned over to you guys back in May.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Do appreciate that. I'll bring in our final panelist, our third panelist, Ben Taylor. Great to see you, Ben. You're in the great state of Michigan, which I cover. So I've been working with you for a little while here, just the same as Ariel and Tim. Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Yeah, I'm here so that anytime anybody says Ben, there's confusion since there's two of us. We're in Southwest Michigan, the Kalamazoo Portage area, which is the not Detroit side of the state for everybody outside of Michigan. I got in the business 10 years ago through my mother, who's been doing it for over 20 years, and we were always under a larger umbrella, and we thought it was time to kind of go out on our own. So ourselves and our third business partner, Ryan, joined with Buckingham we started the process in June. So we're the newest ones, I guess.
Very nice. For all three of you, I have a couple of questions. I know, Sean, we'll ping back and forth on this, but often we often get a lot of feedback. Hey, it can kind of be scary to make a decision where you want to join or partner with another business or add another business into the equation. What were the main drivers for each of you kind of thinking through exploring a relationship with somebody like a Buckingham? Ariel, I'll pick on you first since you kicked it off. But when you were pulling away from your existing firm and starting a whole new one, that's a ton of change. What led you to looking at somebody like a Buckingham?
Main driver was my bandwidth and time. So knowing that I wanted to be the lead financial planner for all of my clients, I knew I didn't have the time or the mental bandwidth to also handle the portfolios to the degree that I wanted them to be serviced at. So knowing that, I knew that I needed a partner to assist with that side, and then also the back office. So I really just decided, where do I want to spend my time? And then naturally, with wanting to have a work-life balance, I have a family, I have other responsibilities. I just felt like I can do my best job if I have somebody of equal caliber handling those other areas.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you had a lot going on, I know, with starting your own RIA and going through that process. Out of curiosity, how many other firms did you go through the due diligence process with before you landed on Buckingham?
So I started wide, just gathering data on TAMPs in general, spoke to some peers. I was previously with the XY Planning Network, so I had some folks there to chat with to find out what TAMPs they had explored. And then I just started weeding through, again, kind of making lists, like, what am I looking for in a partner? I got pretty far down the path with another TAMP, and then it was kind of between them and Buckingham.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tim, what about you?
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah. So kind of what started with us, 8 years ago, we started from scratch. So I came in with 0 clients. And so we started with a much smaller firm that we had a relationship with already. And as we grew, our needs changed. Technology was a big part of it. And then in looking, once we made the decision, all right, it's time to do something, what kind of triggered it was we were all TD Ameritrade. And when we knew we were moving over to Schwab this year, we said, okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and make it a fun year this year. So when we were looking at other firms, a big point for me was the evidence-based investing, because that's how we were situated already. And then I really like the idea of the Orion technology that we're using. And then the other part of it was just, visiting with Ben and the team. They seem like people we would hire at our firm. So it just seemed to fit relationally with us already. So
I tricked you is basically what that is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Well, relationships are important, and we're certainly talking about that in a number of different ways, right? How you as advisors are having deeper relationships with clients, and potentially this decision allows you to achieve that, but also the relationship you have with a service provider like Buckingham being so important. So Ben, number 2, Ben Taylor, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about what was maybe a triggering event, or what were those reasons for you originally reaching out to us to learn more about a potential partnership with Buckingham?
Yeah, we were Yeah, I mean, it's not too different from everybody else. We were having some back office support issues with the RIA we were under, and we were also looking for ways to streamline, especially the investments, which is kind of where we started. But then once, we started talking with BSP and kind of realized the resources, the additional resources that were there that we weren't getting as well. After a decent due diligence process, it made a lot of sense. The practice management stuff is really the I think where we're going to benefit the most, that we just weren't getting that kind of support before.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear the due diligence process wasn't too bad, Ben, considering that I was running with you on that. So it's great to learn about you and your firm and those needs there, and fantastic having you as part of that Buckingham community. So after you go through that discovery and due diligence process, learn more about a potential partner. Tim, I'll pick on you here and go out of order to throw everything off whack and give Ariel a little break. But how did you actually come to that decision? At what point did it say, okay, this really does make sense. I'm willing to kind of go through this venture and maybe cause a little upheaval in the business, but it's going to get me to a better place.
Yeah. We actually were doing a little bit of due diligence with some other firms. And then it came down to, okay, if we make a move, this is the move we're going to go to. And then just thinking through the relationship with our clients, with our last TAMP, and thinking our clients didn't know who they were. They see their name on their statement, but they're dealing with us day to day and not dealing with them day to day. So when we can look people in the eyes and say, hey, look, our investment strategy isn't changing. What we've told you the last 8 years wasn't lies on how we want to invest. We're just going with a bigger team, and really sold on the team approach. We've got an investment planning team, we've got a service team, we've got a trading team. And once I felt good about that, I didn't have one single client, because I'm pretty open with my clients even before we started talking through this, just to kind of feel them out. I didn't have one that raised any concerns. Okay, you're good, I'm good. And so the step I took was, there's a partner group on the accounting firm side. I made a recommendation to them. I said, this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do it. And we all have a good enough relationship where they said, all right, if Tim's good, we're good. These are the reasons why he gave us, and let's get the show on the road. So.
Yeah. And hey, Tim, I want to give you guys a quick plug too on this. Is, firms transition over onto a new partner all the time, but you guys executed your entire book, a transition, about 120 million of assets, a little over 200 households in roughly 60 days. And some of that was a crunch with the custodian, but could you maybe elaborate a little bit on how you guys went through that process, and what to be scared of, what not to be scared of once you've made that decision?
Yeah. So one thing we did is try to get it out there to clients right away. Once we signed the agreement, broadcast email, hey, exciting change, this is coming. It was never presented of like, all right, we got to rip the Band-Aid off, here's what we got to do. We said, hey, we're excited about this for these reasons, and we think you should be too. So just a heads up, there's going to be stuff coming your way, communications, and eventually documents to sign to make this happen. And so then a letter went out, broadcast emails went out multiple times. We tried to communicate, okay, here's where the DocuSign documents are going to come from. This is not spam. And and we do live in rural Kansas, so not everybody loves DocuSign, but we convinced enough people that this was the way to go, and it was easier, and it ended up making it a pretty quick process.
Yeah, you guys went fast, and I don't think you lost any clients in the transition, right? It was
Nope.
done 60 days, and we were under a time crunch with TD shutting things down and moving to Schwab, and you guys did a really good job on that communication front. So great feedback.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Ben, what about you guys?
Yeah, actually pretty similar experience. We got, yeah, communication out to all of our clients right away. And BSP helps provide some of that language, give you some ideas on what to highlight. Um, and then, yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making a concentrated effort to kind of make sure that if you're going to go through a transition like that, everybody in your firm's on the same page. That's that top priority. We actually pushed it back 3 months from our original date because summers are pretty slow around here. Everybody wants to be on the lake, so we knew that we wouldn't be as busy, and really tried to target it so that we could just, get it done as quick as we could. And I think same thing. I think we had it done within about 60 days. We had everybody on board, and yeah, same thing. We didn't lose a client, and then to kind of help cement that relationship, just about a month ago, we did a client event with Sean and Jared from the BSP home office to kind of solidify that, and it's been all positive feedback from our clients so far.
What was the tipping point for you guys in the decision-making process?
For us, it was just we had lost so much time to all of the ancillary things that you get caught up with. And it was just really what it was is it was as we had more and more conversations with Sean, it was just realizing that there were a lot of different places where we could get, investment management and client communications. But to get, all the other stuff, the back office support and the practice management, the relationships that you guys leverage, the technology, to get that all in one place. We didn't find another solution that really was able to do that. And then also, kind of like Tim said, every interaction that we've had, with BSP has been great. You're all people that we want to work with, that are similar to us, and so that's huge.
Yeah, that's high praise right there.
Yeah.
Ariel,
thanks,
what about
Ben.
you?
Appreciate it. Checks in the mail. Yeah.
No.
So in terms of making my decision, a few factors played into it. One, I felt that Buckingham was very transparent with their pricing compared to other TAMPs that I spoke with, where it seemed a little bit more smoke and mirrors of what I was going to ultimately be charged, where there was like everything was an add-on service that wasn't communicated up front, compared to Buckingham, where it's just, if they lay it all out, this is the price. Maybe we're not the least expensive, but you're going to get value, and it's all included. So it didn't feel like I was being nickeled and dimed. I mean, I related it a lot to how I think clients interview me as an advisor. The more that I'm going to add on services and tell them, this is an additional charge versus, here's my fee. It's very transparent. And you get all the services for it. So that was a big deal. Secondly, it was really important that I partnered with a company that would support and not compromise my fee-only status, because that wasn't something I wanted, again, to be unclear to clients. I wanted it to be just very direct. This is how I operate, and Buckingham is here, but they don't cloud or change the way that I operate. Also similar to what Tim had said, the investment philosophy I felt was a great match. I do go to the DFA Santa Monica office quite often because they're down the street from where I live. So I just felt the approach and the management of investments was just a great fit for the philosophy that I was going to employ. There's more.
Let it rip. Let it rip.
I was impressed by the caliber of people who are part of the Buckingham team. So some of the names I already knew. I mean, I had attended webinars of, Michael Kitsis and Jeff Levine in the past. So having familiar names affiliated with Buckingham was a plus. And also seeing all of the people who are part of the research and investment policy committee, just the breadth of their expertise, and just knowing that I can rely on them. It just felt good for me to say, I felt very comfortable telling my clients, this is a good team who we're going to have really great quality research. We'll be able to answer all the questions that you have. And then the last one is, so my regional manager, who's not on the call today, is Lynn. I just really clicked well with her. She's also a CFA charter holder. So I just felt the just the breadth of knowledge and having the conversations with everybody on the team just flowed really naturally for me.
Yeah, that's impactful to hear. Out of curiosity, how long do you guys think you each went through a due diligence process? Because I think that some firms go through that, like, where do I start? How long should it take? For each of you, I mean, Ariel, you had a ton going on with starting a new RIA. Tim, you were already working with a TAMP, so it was like, is this broken? And Ben, you guys sort of similar. How long was the due diligence process for everybody? Dealer's
I can
choice.
start.
Yeah.
I work a little differently on that. So when it feels good, I go for it. And so, we talked to some people, and then it clicked. We researched you guys. You sent us a lot of information. And so I would say 60 days, 90 days, maybe, from when we first talked to when we signed. And that's just, I go by my gut.
Yeah, I was with you on that process. So I do believe you guys were about 60 days before we had serious conversations of what it would look like to onboard. Ben,
Yeah.
what about you guys?
Yeah, it took us probably right around 9 to 12 months. We were a little slower moving because we didn't have kind of that immediate need, because we weren't, on TD or anything like that. And one thing is, we never really felt pressured. It was just kind of like, hey, whatever pace you want to take the process at. If you want to go quicker, great. If you want to go slower, great. Tell us what you need. Here's some people to reach out to. And we were really able to kind of dictate the pace, which I, appreciated. It wasn't a salesy thing. So.
Yeah, it was a many-month process there, Ben, but I know we worked through a ton together, and every situation is a little bit different with complexities of, if you're delinking from a firm or coming out of a firm or starting up an RIA like Ariel went through. So there's registrations and all those different things like that can change the timeline. So I want to dig in there, if that's okay, and really talk about the actual transition process, right? So if you've gone through discovery, you've made the decision, you have a set idea of how you're going to communicate this to clients. We talked a little bit about that. What actual transition resources did Buckingham bring to the table? And Ariel, I'll go to you here because I seem to just want to pick on you all day because I'm jealous of Santa Monica weather here in Chicago. What actual resources that would be helpful for the audience to know were brought to the table? Project management, really walk us through the capabilities there.
The first that comes to mind, which was kind of a stress item for me, was compliance. So I had spent a lot of time debating whether I wanted to be an RIA versus kind of, I guess they call it tuck in, be an IAR under another TAMP structure. And so I did have a lot of concern with just taking that responsibility on. How would I handle that? And Buckingham was really great with just introducing me to other RIAs who partner with Buckingham, just to ask them questions about how they're set up, because I just wasn't sure how I was going to pull that piece together. And then there is a list of resources. So Buckingham has a bunch of other companies that they partner with or they refer to who know the Buckingham model, which made things much more comfortable. So I picked a compliance solution that was very familiar with how Buckingham is set up. So it alleviated a lot of my concerns and worry about just letting things slip through the cracks or having something overlooked. Because I am the compliance officer now, but I wasn't one previously.
I don't think many people want to be that chief compliance officer, but at the end of the day, it's nice to have someone who knows a resource or can provide that solution directly, given whatever situation you're in. Ben Taylor and Infinity, I know you were in a bit of a different situation, right? There was some registration stuff as well, but it was really getting down to a big chunk of clients got to get moved. We got to think about paperwork. How does this all work? Would you mind walking us through kind of what that onboarding and transition process was like, and who from our team was really helpful in that, and describing that a little bit for the audience here?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was the most helpful is there's a dedicated transition team that to kind of shepherd you through the process. Nida was our point person. She's awesome. And then Caitlin from the service team was kind of on that side of things, and so they kind of helped us get everything organized. Here's the data you're going to have. Here's the best way to do it. Here's how to get the DocuSigns done, efficiently. And really, it's just they were able to provide, a game plan, since obviously we hadn't done something quite at this scale before. And so that was really helpful, but just a lot of hand holding. And then we got some kind of upfront, here's what you can expect from the technology when you move over, so that we had a little bit of prep time before we got hands on. So yeah, it was really nice to just kind of have folks who'd done it before and to walk you through it, and really just take care of anything or answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, and you probably haven't done a ton of these transitions in your life before, right? So having the folks from Buckingham who've seen that occur and kind of have process and workflows built out to help organize that project can provide a sense of calm, because again, there is some disruption, of course, with this, but hopefully it sets you forth on a better path. Tim, anything to add relative to your transition and how that went with Buckingham?
Yeah, I'd say a really big deal was getting your client data organized. So the transition team gives you a spreadsheet and says, here's what we need. If you give us this good data, we can, get you going with paperwork and all that stuff. And so it was we have a CRM, we use Redtail. So we did a big import or export out of that and tried to put it in the format that you got to make sure you got all that data correct. And you have the right IPSs in place and all that stuff. And so, I mean, it was a challenge, but it wasn't like something that was life altering to go through. But I would say it was really good for us, because what wasn't good data, we made good data through the process. You're kind of forced to do that. And I would say that was the biggest help. And then we just scrub through, all right, what else do we need? And then once you have all that and you're sitting DocuSigns out, then it's just a meeting every week of, all right, here's the list that hasn't signed. And so we just as a team would contact those people. And I'm sure it's how you guys did it too, but we just had weekly meetings with our team, with Nida and Leah and Ben and Lauren on our end from the service team. And it worked really well. That first meeting, we were like, how the heck are we going to get this done? But then it wasn't too many meetings after that when we were done. So.
Yeah, Tim, I remember when we were going through that and we got toward the end, you made the comment that actually this was great because we had to clean up a bunch of bad data that we didn't have in order. And that if we get audited or we get run through, this was a great way to have everything really clean. The other thing that you guys did, and Tim specifically, you guys, is we're going to do a data conversion, bringing over performance history from your old provider. Something that can be a sticking point for some firms. Can you maybe just talk about that process and what your thoughts were going into that as well?
Yeah, that was a really big deal for me, because especially when you're in the middle of a down market, when you start this, you're like, all right, we need those returns from 8 years ago. We need to let people know they have made money. But there's Chris, is it Van Houten?
Correct. Yeah.
So he specifically is helping us through that. And I think we're just about there, but it's a process that I'm glad he does for us, because he literally pulled every account has a file for every day, I think, built in these custodians. And so they've got to pull all that and put it in our situation in Orion, so that when somebody logs in, it doesn't just give them a performance history back to when they signed on with Buckingham. So that's that. And I've had a lot of clients ask about that. So I'm thankful for that. And I think we're pretty close on getting that squared away. And that didn't start till later in the process. We had to get everybody transitioned first, and then you do the data dump on that side of things. So.
Yeah, we run in parallel for a short time just to make sure that the data maintains accuracy as we go. I don't know, Ben or Ariel, did you guys go through that process as well, or were you guys just kind of cut clean and go?
Yeah, same for us. Our former group wouldn't play ball.
It happens.
Data conversions, everybody's favorite subject. Yeah, absolutely. So Yeah, thanks to those who have been putting in questions in the chat and Q&A feature. We'll make sure we're addressing those here. Kind of thinking through that transition, right, in the paperwork, another question that we get oftentimes, Ben, you and I, is what happens to my portfolios? Do I have to do a fire sale and trade them out? And does that create taxable events? And that can be a really huge issue, obviously, coming from a planning perspective. And we're a firm that takes taxes pretty seriously. So Ben Taylor, would you mind just giving a little bit of insight to everybody here who's on the webinar relative to portfolio implementation and what are the options there?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, if you let BSP know what you need, they're gonna make it work. So for instance, we moved all of our accounts over as is, and we're in the process now of moving most of them into the BSP portfolios. But for instance, our non-qualified accounts, they're just going to stay. They're not going to go into the portfolios except for the the folks where it makes sense. And then even then, once you're on there, there's a lot of options in terms of how often they get automatically rebalanced. Do they? Don't they? So that you can manage the tax loss harvesting. So there's no there was no demand that as soon as we come over, they have to go into BSP portfolios or anything like that, which was nice. And then for some of the clients who want to get a little bit more in the weeds, it kind of gives you the time to really walk them through the stuff in detail, where maybe they want to a little bit more time to get comfortable with it. And the folks that are like, oh yeah, we trust you, if you say that everything's good, go for it. You can move them right over when they come over. So but there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, it's great. We're hoping that the way we've built it, kind of our model and how we think about implementation and transitions, is to be customizable, to be very flexible, to allow you as the advisors to continue to act as fiduciaries and not have a requirement from our end put you in a bind where you're having to create some sort of tax event just because of a system limitation, right? So for those of on the webinar here, as you have follow-up conversations with Buckingham, certainly that's one thing that we want to address. It just makes sure we're fitting this transition and that experience to you. Ben Slater, we talked a little bit about investments here. What are some other great topics that you have on your mind here that we can ask our panel?
So, I think about a lot of the process involved with this. I know we got a question on the transition of the performance data. That's a lot of what we do. We'll help you with that. But I want to go back to the portfolio side because Ariel, I don't know if you guys moved everything into Buckingham models. And could you maybe just share what your process was like transitioning that and flipping it over?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had previously experienced a negative at a prior firm. Some clients were not told and it was miscommunicated, and then they got the nasty surprise of a big tax bill. So I was very sensitive to that when I moved my firm and partnered with Buckingham. And as Ben was saying, they're super flexible. I mean, every client we would look at individually, and I worked with my Buckingham representative to go through and just everyone's different, right? No one has the same tax situation. So with every client, I would explain to him, this is their situation. I would talk to the client, figure out what is their tax threshold, what's going on with them this year, and then we would customize. So where we could, we would move them into the model positions, and then just work around, right? If they had a handful of individual stocks that they wanted to keep for sentimental reasons, or they just decided they didn't want to take any long or short-term capital gains, we would carve out. So we would customize every model. So nearly every single one of my taxable investment accounts is a custom version of the Buckingham models. And the traders do a wonderful job. I just went through my second quarter, just kind of, as Ben has also said, like, how often do I want them rebalanced? They just give you a lot of attention and they're very patient. You can call them as much as you want and go through your clients' portfolios and just talk to them about thresholds. If any of them are, outside, certain bandwidths and need to be rebalanced, how often you want that done. I think you can be as involved as you want, or you can be in a more hands-off. So I like that it's not pressed upon me as the advisor that this is your responsibility. It's, well, you need to tell us how much responsibility you want, and then how much you want to lean on the Buckingham team to do more for you.
Yeah. So what I've heard from all of you is the flexibility mattered a lot in making this transition and having the kind of discretion to be able to say this household or these accounts need to stay as is. This is how I want them rebalanced. And the way we structured things on our end is with that flexibility in mind, which Sean and I kind of mentioned earlier, which is at the crux of how we view the partnership, is that we really do want to be an extension of your office. We did have a couple questions come in that we do want to maybe ask you all. And for those of you unfamiliar with this question, we have two sides of our business. One is Buckingham Strategic Partners, which is the side of the business we're talking about, where you are, owning your own firm, but you're leveraging the resources and tools inside of Buckingham to help you deliver a client experience and planning for your clients. The other side of our business is more of it's a national RIA. It's called Buckingham Strategic Wealth. The question came in from Sam Gilbert. What made you guys, the three of you, think of joining Strategic Partners rather than Strategic Wealth? Or was that an option? Tim, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we didn't really look into that option because we already had our own RIA, and we just wanted the back office solution and the support. So we didn't look into that side very much.
Okay. Ben, what about you guys?
Yeah, we didn't really go down that route a whole lot either. I think a lot of it for us, at least, right now is, it's a family business, and we were kind of operating that under other umbrellas before, and at least for us, it kind of made sense to, as long as we were doing this, to also, open our own RIA, and and God willing, maybe one of my two sons will join us one day down the road, and if not, then obviously we can always explore other options then. So
sure.
Yeah, I guess for me, sorry, it probably more of a branding thing. We're trying to build a SJHL brand, and so if we can have our name on the RIA versus Buckingham, that would be not that we're ashamed of you guys or anything.
We're okay with it.
Yeah, we're good with that.
In truth, we're not designed on the Buckingham Strategic Partner side to necessarily be at the forefront, right? Our name is on certain spots only where it has to be. We try to remove it as much as possible, and we have advisors who lean forward and say, look at the deep bench I'm bringing in and how I can help and serve you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, and mention Buckingham openly, and others who, quite truthfully, try to minimize the name Buckingham and wherever it shows up. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because if you're delivering that planning advice and helping them on the investment side and the tax planning side, that's truly what we care about.
So speaking of that, Sean, it's a good question. So I want to ask all three of the panelists, how did you guys communicate who Buckingham was? Because I know that can always be hey, now we're introducing a new strategic partner. What does this mean? How did you all tackle that one with clients? Ariel, I'll pick on you.
Sure. I was very straightforward. I told clients that I had lots of options to pick from. Again, same process. I relate it to, they have lots of options when they picked me. And so I just told them the diligence process, and not, so in the weeds, but just gave them at a high level why I chose Buckingham, kind of the highlights that you went through on the slide. And what I did was I made it, basically I chose them, but what's in it for my clients. So when I do the presentation, and it's very short in terms of why I picked Buckingham, but then I give them a summary of, well, what's in it for you? These are the benefits that you get. I'm boutique, I'm small, you get me, so you get that personalized experience. However, you have a very large firm that can pass through lots of great benefits in terms of pricing, flexibility, access to different custodians. I couldn't use Fidelity previously, but I can now because I'm partnered with a very large company. So economies of scale, and I think that they like to hear that you've got, something, you get the benefits of the big, large firm, but then you don't have the bureaucracy with that. And I'm not mandated and have conflicts of interest from this large company in terms of what I recommend for my clients.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, for us, communication was, our risk is fairly high with the size of firm that we are versus who we were working through previously, to the point where if one or two people left, we were kind of up a creek. And so we said we're partnering with a larger firm to diversify that risk. If Ben leaves Buckingham, it doesn't have a hugely negative impact. Sorry, Ben, I would try.
It came out. Yeah, it took 45 minutes to flip the script on our love for Ben Slater. Tim. That's awesome. Thank you.
But our clients understood that of like, all right, we're looking out for you. We're trying to be proactive in that decision versus, you know, the guy that handles all our day-to-day trading. If he left, I don't know who would come in there. I wouldn't have a relationship with them. So that was kind of the front we came from. But at the same time, we didn't say, hey, Buckingham's this huge company, you know, because we said basically they're a larger company, but they still have a small town feel that we get to know everybody, and there's relationships there, and we're not just a number.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Tim. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. Ben Taylor, anything to add there in terms of client communication process? Again, you referenced we did a client event just recently here, and I know you're having those meetings in an ongoing fashion. We just talked about portfolio implementation, so I assume everyone's taking it pretty well, and it's kind of smooth sailing now. Is that right?
Yeah, client feedback's been good. I don't really have a lot to add. I think they covered it. I would just highlight what Ariel said about really highlighting the benefits that they're going to get, you know, through us being more efficient, having, you know, more resources and access to, you know, potential planning strategies and technologies we didn't before. And, you know, anytime you can tell someone, hey, you're going to benefit from this, you know, and it isn't going to cost you anything anymore, they're good.
Yeah.
Well, a question did come in on technology and flexibility to leverage different technologies to scale your practice. Can you, the three of you, maybe elaborate on the flexibility you had or didn't have when looking at the partnership with Buckingham from a tech stack perspective? Tim, you want to jump in?
I think one thing, so Ben Slater here, at the end of the day, we're obviously customizable and flexible. Now we know that. So for Tim and Ben and Ariel, any requirements on our side to use a prescribed technology like a CRM or a financial planning software or analytics software, anything like that?
No, it was a big, like what really sold on the relationship too was that Ben said, all right, what is important to you guys as far as technology? And, you know, is it because there's kind of two different routes you can take as far as that with Buckingham. And so they looked to say, what is your need? And I said, okay, I want an app for clients. You know, we previously worked through TD Ameritrade, but our TAMP didn't have any technology. So our clients, the only app they had on their phones or tablets was the TD Ameritrade institutional app that it's pretty bare bones, didn't give performance summaries and stuff. And so that was a big driver of what we wanted to do something different. We didn't want to start not winning relationships because we didn't have the technology that people were looking for. Of all the things they could not come with us for, we didn't want technology to be one of them. So I appreciated Ben said, hey, if this is what's important for you, then this is the route through Orion I think we should take. And so that's what we did.
Thanks, Tim. Ariel or Ben, anything from a technology standpoint that stood out to you in terms of either flexibility or letting you operate in a certain way, or just getting guidance on what a specific provider could do, given our knowledge of the landscape there?
I would say flexibility. The other TAMP that I had spoken with, they mandated that I use their platform, their CRM. So I was or I still am, because I carried it over with me, the XYPN tech stack. So I had Wealthbox, Right Capital. And so the fact that Buckingham didn't require that I change was a plus. But then they also, I guess if I had come over without anything, there are the resources and there's certain, you know, affiliates and discounts that you can get through Buckingham, which is great. So if I hadn't already started off with those systems, then I would have considered one of the ones in Buckingham's list.
Yeah, it's good. That's good feedback. And we do offer a light tech stack in the sense that we give Money Guide Pro as part of the kind of offering. But if you choose not to use it, that's okay. So, well, we've got about 10 minutes left in the call, and I think it'd be, you know, there's three questions I really want to get to. One of them actually came in from Nick Hayer here. Any surprises or anything you didn't account for in the first 90 days when transitioning onto Buckingham that maybe somebody in the audience should be aware of?
Yeah, for us, probably the biggest one was just getting used to, new systems. So make sure, because you spend a lot of time kind of carving out the time up front to do the transition, but make sure you give yourself the time on the back end to kind of learn everything too, because you're going to understand the portfolios and stuff until you have access to the technology. So for us, we were on Black Diamond previously, and now we're on, InvestNet. And so you just have to learn it. It just is what it is. And so we put a lot of time into making sure the transition would go smooth. And, in retrospect, probably would have carved out just a little bit more dedicated time to, mastering the new systems, once we got on them. Because until you get there, there's just, there's only so much you can do.
Yep. Tim, what about you guys?
I would kind of say ditto to that. We were so focused on clients getting transitioned, and they, especially before the Schwab merger, literally nothing changed except their quarterly statement for them. And so we were so focused on that. Well, then we got into the mix of things and got to quarter end, and everything was new, and we're opening new accounts, and it wasn't that we didn't have those resources. We just didn't put our own time into doing it. So then we had to kind of buckle down and say, all right, we got to learn how to do our day-to-day lives here. And there was training offered and all that through that too. So
yeah, it's important to mention that the way we run our service model is that you do have a team underneath to support you with all that structure. So hopefully you two didn't feel like you were left out on an island on that one.
No. Yeah, I want to second that it wasn't that the resources weren't available. It's just we didn't think about putting enough time into that ahead of time. Once we realized we needed to play catch up, we had plenty of training from BSB. It was just kind of needing to know what we needed to focus on at that point.
Perfect. Ariel, what about you?
So separate of, I guess, the new systems, one thing I didn't realize going into it was not having a very traditional pricing structure. Again, I was doing a lot of other things and didn't really bring that to the forefront of the conversation. And so after I onboarded and I said, shared with the team, this is how I want to price. Chris Van Houten was in on that too. And he very politely was like, this is very complicated. We can't do this. So I did have to slightly rework my pricing. And it all worked out in the end, but it was a wrinkle I hadn't anticipated. So I guess if anyone who's thinking of doing the transition, if they are not on a very straightforward kind of AUM schedule, if you're doing any kind of mixture of flat fees or minimums, just to bring that conversation sooner rather than later, just to the team to make sure that the systems can handle it.
Yeah, the way I've always articulated it, and I think that the mantra we go by internally is let's measure twice, cut once, sort of as a process. And there's typically a solution that can be found. It may not be all the way Buckingham or all the way you, but somewhere in the middle and making it work for everybody. So that's really good feedback. Sean, what else? What else should people be thinking about from these three as we're starting to wrap up the call here?
I think we had a question come in that kind of relates to this, but since joining Buckingham Network and getting past kind of the initial, whatever the paperwork looks like, and communicating Buckingham, it's the question of what next, right? So I'd love to hear, and Tim, I'll start with you. Now that transition is done and you've started to run and dig into the resources that are not related to investments or trading or portfolio or service as much, what are you really looking forward to working on with Buckingham or just in your practice going forward?
Yeah, I think for us it's growth, and that's what I was excited to visit with Ben about. Is like, all right, so we're in Central Kansas, but we have 5 locations, and right now it's Tim's our financial advisor, and we're growing to a point where there needs to be more Tims. And I know that I've got a network of people within Buckingham that are playing out that model and that Ben's seen it, and so I'm really wanting to leverage. All right, how do we do this? Another big thing that I was just going to email Ben later today on is the learning group opportunity to see what other practices are doing. That's a big part since we're relatively young practice. I want to see the people that are doing it and doing it successfully, I want to model what they're doing. And so that's an opportunity I didn't have at our previous firm. Is, you know, we'd have an annual conference, but these people weren't, their models weren't built like us. And so I felt like I'd go there and I didn't really get anything out of the other people that were working there. Well, we just had the partner summit in St. Louis, and I made some connections there, and just made me excited for the network within Buckingham and say, how do we do this thing? How do we grow in the future?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Tim. A lot that I'm sure you're excited to work toward there with Ben. So Ben Taylor, same question to you, if you wouldn't mind. Kind of gone through that transition here over the summer. What's next for you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to kind of what Tim said. It's, you know, it's growth and how do we do it the best way possible, because that was really, you know, one of the things that brought us to BSP was, you know, you hit that time cap. How many more people can we, you know, serve with the way we're currently doing things? And so I think for us, it's just going to be, you know, for us, it's Sean's our person is having conversations about, okay, so now that we've got these resources, what are the best way to, you know, utilize them to be able to grow without getting overwhelmed. You know, what do we need? Is it, you know, is it hiring? Is it, you know, going through our book of clients and, you know, making changes, you know, really whatever it is. So that's kind of our next steps. And so we're really starting that that process now so that we can, you know, get into 2024 with some good momentum.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing. Ariel, anything to add to that?
I guess I would add that I'm looking forward to working with more complex clients and leveraging both the investment strategy team and the advanced planning team at Buckingham. You know, if there was a situation where I felt like that it was either just too much, too time consuming for me, I may not have encouraged that relationship, but I feel much more confident now that if there's anything that is outside of my bandwidth or I just don't know so well, I know that I've got a wealth of resources with the Buckingham team that I can rely on and bring into the fold.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Well, Ben Slater, we've covered a lot here in about an hour. So anything you want to add as we start to wrap up?
The only thing I'd like to say is thank you to all three of you for joining us today. We know it's an hour out of your day, that you're all very busy, and that we're very excited to have you guys part of the network now, and we look forward to you know, working on those next sets of challenges with you guys. And I think it's probably important for the audience to know that the way we structure things at Buckingham is very consultative by nature. So some of the things that Tim and Ben and Ariel talked about were maybe your regional director, your divisional manager, your service teams. It's all designed to provide everyone, you know, really that consultative one-on-one extension of your office approach. So for those of you on the call, if you, you know, we appreciate you taking time to connect with us on this. Feel free to either scan the barcode on the screen right now, or if you're already working with us, one of our team members will be reaching out to you shortly, or you should be getting an email from us to connect as follow up on next steps. But I think both Sean and I want to say thank you to everybody for taking time out of your day to connect. Sean, any last parting words?
No, I think that's great. It's a good mix of advisors on the panel today. Again, every situation is a little bit unique, a little different, and we're here to help with that. So for those advisors who, you know, are in a situation where a potential transition might make sense, we welcome the opportunity to have that discussion. But certainly to Ben, Tim, and Ariel, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights here with the group.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for everyone for attending too.